Oh, Jonty, how are you today?
I'm really well, thank you very much. Yeah, very good. So the last thing I remember really, I jumped the course. I could tell you how the horse jumped every fence. I could tell you the minute markers on the whole of the course, all the way up until the fence before the corner. I got a little bit close to the fence before I fell. I was a little bit off it, and then it all went blank. I don't remember anything else. I was incredibly well cared for after the fall. The fence judges and the team at Tattersalls were great. I was taken immediately, I was taken to the Connolly Hospital in Dublin, where I think I was given a scan. You have to remember, of course, that at this point I was unconscious, so I don't really remember it. And I was transferred to the Beaumont Hospital from the Connolly. The Beaumont is a specialist brain hospital, and they assessed me, and they scanned my brain and so on, and then eventually I went back to the Connolly. I was in a coma for 6 weeks, and that's a kind of period of life that you'll never get back. I don't remember it, although they say that people do remember it. And initially they tried to wake me up, medically I think, and they put you in a medically induced coma, and then they couldn't maintain that, they couldn't bring me around. So they felt that it was better, or there may be a medical reason, I don't know. They felt that it was better to leave well alone. In terms of waking up, the memory is quite patchy, really. I remember being quite cross that I was here and everyone else was elsewhere, but that would be the event rider in me, maybe. Much as anything, it was coming to terms with the fact that it had happened on Art and not one of the younger horses, who might have been more prone to mistake, it was sort of a very groggy time, really, coming around from it all. My behaviour in Ireland was quite appalling. I decided that the quickest way for me to see my children was to misbehave in Ireland and get sent home, get sent back to England. It didn't really work. It sort of worked, but it didn't really work. And they were very good, actually, and it was hard, really, to keep up the pretense of misbehaving in order to get sent home. I had a very good friend called Michael Knight, and my mum and my sister and my stepfather Arthur and Maggie and Hannah, obviously, and they used to take me in walks in my wheelchair around the local park in Dublin. And this park had beautifully tarmacked walkways, and I'd tell whoever was pushing a wheelchair, right, stop here, and I'd stand up. And of course, this had to be out of sight of the windows of the hospital, because I need to make sure that the nurses weren't looking. And really, I just stood up out of my wheelchair and then I sat down again. That was, if you like, the first stages to getting going. But every time they told me to practice an exercise 5 times, I would practice it 105 times. And I come from the Andrew Nicholson School of Education, so that helps. But it was important to me to get upright. I moved from the Connolly Hospital in Dublin to Liverpool, and we did have the choice, apparently, of being repatriated, but this was going to cost a fortune. So I came on the ferry, and my stepfather and mother and my sister came and got me. Actually, I have to let you into a secret. My friend Dan Zellmans came to get me. He felt that the best thing was to come in a good car, and so he came in his wife's car, and it broke down. So Dan was stuck in Dublin with the car, and we carried on to Liverpool. We were discharged by the hospital in Dublin, the Connolly, and readmitted by the hospital in Liverpool. So really, I was a free agent for that time, so I could have gone anywhere. But the next step really was to go to the Sid Watkins building and the Walton Centre in Liverpool. Was really about the rehab and about trying to achieve more and trying to get walking and do more. Absolutely thrilling for me because it meant that I could see my kids. The challenges you face when you're getting better are enormous. I think as each hurdle was overcome as such, you doubt yourself, and it sounds odd. Physically you're getting closer, if you like, but mentally you feel further away because you realise exactly how much there is to do, and that can be really tough. Really, within a few weeks of arriving in Liverpool, it became very obvious to me what I wanted to do next. And next, to me, arose in the shape of Oaksey House, which I'm sure a lot of jockeys know because it's an Injured Jockeys Fund run rehabilitation centre. That was as much about being close to my children, being close to my horses, being close to the yard, a little bit more about being part of what was going on every day. And that's where I am now, and you know, it's good. So throughout all of this, Jane Felton, who's my head girl, has been absolutely brilliant. She was ably supported, if you like, by Sarah Moffat. They came up regularly and kept me up to date with what was going on in the yard. So that was really important. Art coming home meant a huge amount to me because he was ably cared for by Andrew Downs and his team. And we're very, very grateful for that. Supported by Jane Moss and Liz Murdoch, and that's equally important. But Art coming home to me meant I was one step, if you like, closer to things being normal again. And him being at home just meant a huge amount. To see his face over the door, to see his head in the yard at feed time is just really special, means a lot. When I came out of the coma, I don't know, sometime later, my mum and my sister tried to express how much support there had been. I absolutely wouldn't have a bar of it. I didn't believe them. And when you come out of the coma and into the real world, it's very difficult to comprehend that level of exposure or support or whatever you want to call it. And it was absolutely fantastic. Every single message, card, photograph, everything that people have sent. The level of support from professional riders has been enormous, and the likes of Andrew Nicholson he was really helpful, and the support for someone who doesn't do text messages very often, the support from him was fantastic. William and Alice Fox-Pitt have been incredibly supportive. The Irish guys came to see me, Kieran Glynn and Sam Watson and Sarah Ennis, and you know, it just went on and The text messages I've had from all walks, but particularly from the Irish crowd. I've spoken to Padraig McCarthy. I spoke to, you never believe this, they phoned me in the evening. I was back in Liverpool by now. In the evening, late at night, from, guess where? The World Games in America. They'd just been, all of them had been cross country, and they were so delighted, and it meant so much that they were still in a medal position at that point, and they were doing well, and as we all know, they went on to win the silver medal. It meant so much to know that everybody was behind me in the potential return to normality. My very first public appearance, if you like, was at Osberton Horse Trials, and they had a fundraising evening there for me. I must have known what I was doing, because I rang Stuart Bunting beforehand, and I said to Stuart, right, I'm going to try to come to Osberton. The phone went quiet. And as any of you who know Stuart will know very well, Stuart doesn't go quiet very often, but he did go quiet, and he almost didn't believe me, and he helped me enormously. He and his team, Anna and so on, helped me enormously in getting to Osberton. And then Stuart announced me, I think Stuart's words were, yeah, something like, you don't know who's here now, but he announced me, and the crowd went wild, and it was fantastic, really, very good for them to be so appreciative. Osberton, of course, was slightly emotional. That kind of support, I think anybody would get emotional. It culminated, it moved on from there and became easier, if you like, for me. Really, I wanted to thank everybody as we went along, so I couldn't help myself but publicly appear as such in order to thank people. And that culminated with Jane Felton winning the Groom's Prize at the Horse and Hound Awards, which was absolutely fantastic. My goals, that's quite hard to describe. I would like, above everything, I would like most of all for me to make the choice. And that's important to me, that I decide if I event again, I decide, which tracks I do, I make the choice, and that's important, and will continue to be, but at the moment it's one day at a time, and definitely we'll move forward. I'm getting more and more involved with the yard, which is great. I'm more involved with each different horse and their work programs and what they do each day. My mum said right at the beginning, she said, he hasn't finished his story, there's still another chapter. And that has stuck with me ever since, and that's a very important thing to think.